Hey guys, so getting back to what I was talking about earlier in terms of the two questions that I would tell everybody to ask themselves to be successful at whatever that endeavor is. The first question that I would ask myself is, what is it that I want? And be very specific in terms of what you're asking. What is it that you want? I want to make money. Well, that's not very specific. What is money? Is it 50,000 that you would consider yourself successful? Is it 70,000? Is it 100,000? Is it 150? So be very specific. The next question that you have to ask yourself is, what is the best way in order to achieve that goal? And it's very important that you understand when I say what is the best way. I can say that I want to make $100,000, and then I can sit there and say, well, I can go sell drugs. I think most people would agree with the fact that that's not the best way to do it. You know, not to make this more personal, but there's a lot of people who, if I'm talking specifically about women, they want a man. And what I mean by being specific is, do you want a man just as a boyfriend, or do you want a man as a husband? Because depending on how you define what you're looking for and what you consider success, that will tell you what you need to do to get to that success. The requirements for you to be a man's hookup, or the requirements for you to be a man's boyfriend, girlfriend in that situation, the requirements are completely different for you to be that man's wife. I tell my daughter all the time, the requirements for you to be a boy's girlfriend are different than for you to be a man's wife. And it's very important that you understand that. What are you trying to achieve? What are your goals and your objectives? What is the best way to attain that success that you want? I mean, it seems very straightforward. The problem is we get in the way of ourselves when we're thinking of these things. We overthink it. If I wanted, if I were not married and I wanted a wife or whatever, I would go to people, go to women who are married, have successful marriages, and I would ask them what they're looking for in a man, and vice versa. If I was a female looking for a husband, I would go to men who are in successful marriages and ask them what they are looking for in a wife. This seems so simplistic. The problem is we're in this I know everything mode. We have to start to humble ourselves and understand that we don't have all the answers. Sometimes the answer is right in front of you. The problem is you don't want to ask. I don't know if it's because maybe you're afraid of what you're going to hear the answer to be, but the reality of the situation is people who are successful want to help you and tell you what they've done to become successful. It's nice to sit there and turn around and explain to people the steps that it takes to be successful. It is literally infuriating. I was watching a clip of Jay-Z and he was talking about how his friends or people in his circle were always talking about how they wanted to make it, and he said, I'm giving you the tools, but you don't really want to make it. You want me to give it to you. There's a difference. And then at the end of the interview, he said, it's almost annoying because you hear these people who are just complaining about, oh, I can do this and I want this and I want this, but you're not working to get those things. I heard Ice Cube in an interview say, don't complain about the results that you're not getting from the work that you didn't put in. we keep on recycling these things. There was a big thing on the internet a while ago. Would you take $500,000 or a dinner with Jay-Z? And then they interviewed Jay-Z. It's like, I don't know why anybody would not take the $500,000. I've given you the blueprint to everything. If you listen to my records for $9.99, I've told you everything I've done to be successful. And essentially what he's saying is, it begins with work. You gotta work. Put the phone down, put social media down, get away from the friends who are not helping you get where you want to be. Surround yourself with people who are in positions where you want to be. Ask them for their help, and I promise you they will get you there. But you have to be fully committed to that goal and objective that you're trying to accomplish. When I began my sales career, like I said, I worked 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. Monday through Friday. I worked 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. on Saturday. We had a thing called call-ins where clients would call in, and if I was on call-ins and maybe 3 other people, it was first come, first serve. So if you came in first, then if somebody called in, you got the first call in. There were days that I came into the office. I remember coming in, it was 3 a.m. in the morning, and I slept at the kitchen table. That's how bad I wanted it. There are certain, you guys, some of you want success, but you don't want to put that work in to get it. Those two things don't go together. You kind of want the success on your terms. You have everything that you need to get that success. And as I say to my kids, it's becoming easier and easier, if I'm being completely honest with you guys. Because the reality of the situation is, we have more and more people that are finding more and more excuses as to why they are not successful, as to why they're not getting the things that they think they deserve. And yet there's certain people who just constantly win, constantly make money, constantly are on top, and they can literally start from scratch and replicate it. Well, how can they do that? At the job that I was just talking about, where it's 9 to 9, I learned structure. So now I wanted to be successful. I wanted to feed my family. I was willing to do whatever it took in order to successfully provide for my family. So now I committed, okay, I'm going to be working these 70 hours in a week. But now you have to bring that to structure. So what do I mean? When we called, I had a sheet in front of me that said from 8 o'clock to 9 o'clock, how many people did you call? And you have to check off. From 9 o'clock to 10 o'clock, how many people did you check off? And so on, all throughout the day. That was one row. The row below that was essentially, okay, now you've called X amount of people. How many people did you contact in that hour from 8 to 9? And then the next row was, how many appointments did you set up for that hour? So there was 3 rows. How many people did you call? Of those people that you called, how many contacts did you make? And the next row was, of the contacts that you made, how many people did you set appointments to or for? And so essentially what it started to map out to be was, if I called 40 people in an hour, if I made 7 contacts, I could make 1 appointment. And you just replicated that. Now, then you started to notice certain times. I noticed that on Saturday, those calls would be the same, but the amount of contacts will go up and the amount of appointments will go up. Well, why is that? People are home on Saturday. I'm not calling during the day where people are at work. It's the morning, they're more pleasant, etc., etc. You have to get to a point in life where you just sit there and say, I'm going to be successful. There is no option B. And I'm going to put everything that I have into this option and I'm going to make it work because I don't have any other option. I'm going to stop complaining about everything that I don't have, and I'm going to make this work. And my promise to you, and the one thing I always try to say to people is, I want you guys to honestly think to yourself, and I'm being honest when I say think to yourself, is there something in your life that you really, really, really had to get done, or you really, really, really wanted it, like beyond belief, you obsessed about it? And I want you to think, did you get that thing? Because I can honestly sit there and tell you there's nothing in my life that I can say I've put everything into and then didn't get it. There are some of you who are moms and you had a kid and the husband, the boyfriend wasn't around and you didn't know how you were going to do it. So you had no option. All the other options were taken away from you. And now it's 10, 15, 20 years later. And not to say that you are a millionaire or you've made a lot of money, but you got through that because you didn't have any other options. What I'm trying to say to you guys very simply is, when you get to a point where you say, I want to make 50,000, I want to make 100,000. I don't know where you guys are, but if you want to make X amount of dollars, you have to commit to, I'm going to do it. I'm going to put the work in. Now I have to find what is the best way in order to achieve that goal. I'm going to find people who are making that type of money. I'm going to ask them what they're doing. I'm going to take their advice and I'm actually going to put it to work. I'm not just going to listen to it and say, oh, that'd be great. Along the way, there's going to be people who are going to tell you you can't do it. Whether it's outside people, to be honest with you, it could be family members. I remember having a conversation with a family member, and he basically told me, you're not going to make 100,000 when I was 22 years old. He was telling me, you're not going to make that. That's for the people at the top. Now, I could have listened to that. The bottom line is, what you have to understand is you have your own life to live. But you need to understand the decisions that you make with your life. You can let other people make those decisions for you. You can let other people tell you how to live your life, but I need you to understand you're going to deal with those consequences. So if you decide to listen to them, even though they may tell you what they think is best, they may tell you, oh, you're doing this the wrong way, you're doing whatever they tell you, understand when it doesn't work that you're going to have to face whatever those consequences are. They're not. Dude, like,